Moving day should have been exciting. A fresh start for my wife and me. After years of dealing with the relentless harassment of our homeowners association, led of course by Karen, we had finally found freedom in a cabin outside their jurisdiction. It was a cozy property tucked into the woods. No HOA board breathing down our necks, no absurd fines for grass length, no letters about what shade our mailbox should be. We were thrilled. But in the back of my mind, I knew Karen wouldn't let us go quietly. Karen had made our lives miserable since the day we arrived in the neighborhood. She lived 2 doors down and acted as if she were the sheriff, mayor, and judge all rolled into one. Rules weren't just rules to her. They were sacred commandments. If a trash can was visible from the street for more than an hour, Karen was on her phone reporting you. If a kid's bicycle was left on the lawn, she was photographing it for evidence. And if anyone dared to challenge her, she would march right up to their door, clipboard in hand, ready to cite whatever she could find. That morning, as the moving truck rumbled into our driveway, I could already see the storm brewing. Karen stood at the end of her driveway, arms crossed, glaring as if we had personally betrayed her. My wife gave her a polite wave, which only made Karen scowl harder. Within minutes, she marched over, clipboard in hand, wearing her infamous visor and that sharp, self-righteous tone. "You can't move out without filing the proper exit paperwork with the HOA," she announced. I raised an eyebrow, suppressing a laugh. "Exit paperwork?" "We sold our house, Karen. We're done here. The HOA has no say over where we go." But Karen wasn't the type to be brushed off. Her lips tightened, and she leaned forward. "That's not how it works. You can't just abandon property without notice. And another thing," she turned sharply toward my wife, eyes narrowing. "I've seen you carrying firearms. You've been impersonating an officer, haven't you?" My wife, calm as always, simply stared back, unfazed. "No, Karen. You don't know what you're talking about." Karen's face flushed with fury. She jabbed her pen against the clipboard like she was writing our names into her personal blacklist. "Fine. If you won't follow the rules, I'll make sure the proper authorities handle this. You'll regret this day." With that, she spun on her heel and stomped back toward her house. We thought it was just another one of her dramatic threats, the kind we'd heard 100 times before. But about an hour later, as we loaded the last boxes onto the truck, we heard sirens. 2 police cruisers pulled into the street, lights flashing. And there was Karen, standing triumphantly at the edge of our driveway, arms folded like a general watching her troops march in. The officers stepped out, looking between us and Karen, clearly trying to figure out the situation. Before they could say a word, Karen jumped in, pointing at my wife like she was unveiling a criminal. "That's her. She's been carrying a gun, pretending to be an officer. She's dangerous, and they're leaving without clearing it with a hoe." The officers exchanged glances. They turned to my wife, one of them resting his hand on his holster. The tension in the air was thick. Karen stood there smirking, certain that her reign of power was about to be cemented. But what she didn't know, and what she was about to learn in the most humiliating way possible, was that my wife had more authority in her pocket than Karen could ever dream of. The air felt heavy as the 2 officers approached, their eyes fixed on my wife. I could see their body language shift into caution. Shoulders squared, hands twitching near their belts, waiting to see if the dangerous impersonator Karen had warned them about was going to resist. Karen herself stood like a proud queen at a coronation, chin high, arms folded tightly, a smug smile plastered across her face. "This woman has been carrying a firearm around the neighborhood, pretending to be law enforcement," Karen announced again, her voice trembling with self-satisfaction. "I demand you arrest her immediately." The officers looked at my wife, who remained calm and steady, not an ounce of fear on her face. Slowly, deliberately, she reached into her bag. The officers stiffened, hands hovering near their holsters. "Easy, ma'am. Hands where I can see them," one officer said sharply. My wife raised her free hand reassuringly and pulled out a small black wallet from her bag. With one smooth motion, she flipped it open, revealing a gleaming badge and a federal identification card. The tension shattered like glass. Both officers froze, eyes widening as they leaned in to look. Silence stretched in the air until the taller officer straightened his posture and stepped back, his demeanor changing instantly. He gave her a crisp salute. "Lieutenant Colonel, my apologies. We weren't aware." Karen blinked, her smirk collapsing into confusion. What? What are you doing? Don't salute her. She's a fraud. The second officer turned to Karen, his expression darkening. Ma'am, I suggest you remain quiet. Then he glanced at my wife. Lieutenant Colonel, is this true? Your active duty? Yes, my wife said firmly, tucking the badge back into her bag. I serve in military law enforcement, and for the record, carrying a firearm is an impersonation. It's part of my duty. Karen's face went white, her lips parting as though she couldn't find air. No, she can't be. This isn't right. She's lying, she sputtered, looking around for support. But none came. The officers now stood at attention, their respect radiating through every movement. I couldn't resist crossing my arms and raising an eyebrow at Karen. Funny thing, Karen. You called the police to expose my wife, but it looks like you just called in backup for her instead. The officers chuckled quietly at that, though they remained professional. One of them stepped closer to Karen. Ma'am, filing false police reports is a serious offense. You knowingly accused a federal officer of a crime she didn't commit. Karen's jaw dropped. Her eyes darted between us, searching desperately for some angle of escape. But she's in violation of HOA rules, she shrieked, her voice cracking. The taller officer narrowed his eyes. The HOA doesn't govern federal authority. And frankly, they don't govern who leaves the neighborhood either. This is harassment. I couldn't help but laugh. Karen's authority, once wielded like a weapon against the entire neighborhood, was crumbling right there in front of her. She looked smaller by the second, her posture folding in on itself as the realization sank in. You might want to step back and reconsider your next move, Karen, my wife said coolly, her tone carrying the weight of years of command. Because the next report filed might not be against me, it'll be against you. Karen's knees buckled slightly, and for the first time since I had known her, she was speechless. The same woman who could recite HOA bylaws at the drop of a hat now had nothing left to say. The officers gave us both a respectful nod before turning back to their cruisers. As they drove away, the flashing lights fading in the distance, Karen stood frozen on the curb. Her face pale, her reign of control finally shattered, and for the first time since moving into that neighborhood, I felt completely free.